The final day of 2025 has arrived, and we've got two games to talk about for you today here on Locked On Blue Devils. Men's basketball taking on Georgia Tech in the ACC opener. And how about Duke football in the Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl? A whole lot happening here today.
Hi, everybody. Dick Vitale. Hey, make sure you listen, man, to Locked On Blue Devils with J.J. Jackson. He's awesome, baby.
You are Locked On Blue Devils, your daily podcast on the Duke Blue Devils. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody. Welcome into another episode of the Locked On Blue Devils podcast. My name is JJ Jackson. Thank you so much for being here with us today on Wednesday, December 31st, 2025. Locked On Blue Devils is your one-stop shop where we discuss everything going on inside the life of Duke athletics. On today's show, our good buddy Jordan Mann is here with us. We're talking about this Duke basketball game today against Georgia Tech. We'll also take a moment to talk about the football team getting set to take on Arizona State in the Sun Bowl. All of that and more coming up here on today's show. If you haven't done so already, please be sure to follow and subscribe to Locked On Blue Devils for free, wherever it is that you get your podcasts. Go ahead and leave us a 5-star rating and written review. Take a moment, if you will, to watch our show daily, each and every day on YouTube. Like this video, share it with your friends, and most importantly, subscribe to our YouTube channel as Locked On Blue Devils continues that climb towards 5,000 subscribers. A special shout out to all you everydayers out there. I absolutely love guys that make us a part of their routine each and every day. So without further ado, for the final time in the calendar year 2025, Jordan Mann is here with us today. We got to go out with the bang one more time in 2025. J-Man, I hope you're doing well.
Yeah, man, I'm happy to be on. Happy holidays to you and yours and all the listeners out there. As you see, I'm still at home or at one of my great-grandfather's house, so as you can see in the great background. But, yeah, happy holidays. I'm happy to be on and talk about a 2-for-1. Got a special day, New Year's Eve, with Duke football and Duke basketball.
Yeah, it's pretty cool that we get one of these to kind of close out the year. And obviously this basketball team, we've had to wait a little while, 11 days since they last played on December 30th, or excuse me, on December 20th against Texas Tech there in Madison Square Garden. 11 days to sit with the first loss of the year. And that's the big question for everybody. Come today's 4 p.m. tip-off, how in the world is this Duke team going to respond to the first loss of the season? What have these last few days in practice been like for the team, and so much more? I'm so intrigued to see how this one plays out, man, because, again, for the first time this season, they're responding to a loss.
Yeah, first time this season, and good news for Duke is they're not playing a team that has Christian Anderson on their team. So that's a good start to things. Is
we'll
that
start there, yeah.
You don't have to space Christian Anderson, who's going to hit tough shots and make you pay. So that's good. And then, look, they're coming back off their Christmas break, and it gives me PTSD thinking about when I played, where the 26th of December is that first day. I don't even know if you touch a ball. It's just straight cardio. So thoughts and prayers to the players right now. I know we're the 30th or New Year's Eve, 31st, but 5 days ago, people are going to trash cans probably. Welcome back from Christmas break. So Duke will be, well conditioned now going into the game against Georgia Tech. So, look, at the end of the day, they had a bitter loss that they wish that they could play the next day and get it out of their system, but they've had to sit on it and wait on it. And so I think you're going to see a very, very tuned Duke team. I know they'll have a long period off, but I think they'll be sharper than what people expect because of they're coming off that loss.
And this is the last time we have to do something like this. There will be some breaks that come up in the schedule for the Blue Devils, but nothing quite to the level of 11 days that we just saw. One weekend in ACC play per usual, you've got your bye. So this basketball team will play on a Saturday, not have a midweek game, and then play on the following Saturday. So just 7 days in between breaks. But they've already done the worst of it with this 11-day break between games. And I'm excited to see them take on a Georgia Tech team who comes in with a 9-4 record. It's a Tech team that's had some pretty disappointing outings so far this season, and a little surprising that the Damon Stoudamire era hasn't gone better than it has so far, if that kind of makes sense. I was a big fan of the hire. I thought he had a certain swag and a culture that he was going to bring to Atlanta, and it just hasn't really worked out in his favor, Jay.
Yeah, look, I mean, he's 9-4. Just the NIL right now with Georgia Tech is not where it needs to be to compete in the ACC. You're seeing that with Boston College. And look, High Point has a better NIL than Boston College, and I think even Georgia Tech in terms of what they're bringing in for their basketball programs. And I'm not really exaggerating with that. And you're seeing it with definitely Boston College, but then you're seeing it with Georgia Tech with a 14-point loss to DePaul, a 4-point win against Maryland Eastern Shore to start the season. Like, they just don't – like, it's tough. It's a tough spot to coach at. And he's doing the best he can because, look, they lost to a Georgia team that's ranked in the top 25 by 5 points. So Duke can't just walk into Cameron today and think that they have something with Georgia Tech. They'll roll over and quit because we know this Georgia Tech team, they'll fight. And they had Duke down at halftime, I think double digits in the first matchup in the ACC tournament last season. And Duke had to claw out of that double-digit deficit to win that game without Cooper Flagg. But the Georgia Tech team, they're going to be ready to play, and Duke needs to be ready for that. And I think they will be coming off of this long break.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the ACC tournament game. That was a fun one to watch. There have been other games that have gone down to the wire. I can think about Jon Scheyer's first season with Mark Mitchell involved in the game there late against Georgia Tech, and balls not bouncing Duke's particular way and that sort of thing. But also in the last 10, 15 years against the Yellow Jackets, there have been just as many games where it's not a competition at all once the ball goes up, and Duke feels really good when that happens. So we'll see which of those scenarios kind of plays out. Like you said, it's one thing for them to come back on December 26th and to have those tough practices with the conditioning and everything that goes into it. You're a former basketball player yourself, man. It's a whole nother thing when you actually get into the game setting and your body's got to get back to it.
Oh yeah, and your coach and the coaching staff knows that. That's why they probably ran them into the ground for 26th and 27th, and maybe a little bit of the 28th. And they picked up the ball at 29th because that is just what coaches know. Like, hey, you got to stay in shape. We know that you didn't do anything over your couple-day break, and they're right because your opening presence, your family's happy you're there. But as a basketball player, you're like, oh my God, I got to go back to 26th, or some fly back Christmas Day, and it's just like, oh, I have to run my tail off for the next 48 hours. And so Duke's going to be ready. And you saw that last year. I was pulling up while you were talking, like last year's schedule, Duke played Virginia Tech New Year's Eve and beat them 88-65. Yep. And Duke was ready to play coming off of that long break. It was a 10-day break. They actually played Georgia Tech before that on the 21st. And they came back, beat Virginia Tech by 23. And I think that's just kind of what I expect in this Georgia Tech game. Obviously, we'll get down to that later, but it shows that whatever works during that long layoff, a Christmas layoff, that Duke will be all right coming back.
I'm hopeful that we've got a lot of big moments to talk about this season and ACC competition for Duke. So let's go ahead and we'll take our first time out here on today's show, highlight some of the other things that you need to know ahead of this game coming up for Duke basketball. Locked On Blue Devils here today is brought to you by our friends over at Game Time. Guys, there is no better place that you should be looking for tickets than Game Time. There's nothing like college sports as well. Tailgates, packed stadiums, being right there in the middle of it, the energy, the bands, the moments you remember forever. But actually getting tickets, sometimes that part is frustrating with the long waiting queues for getting your logins, prices jumping at checkout, all those things that are just bogus and you don't need to worry about. That's why Game Time gives the advantage back to fans. The easiest way to unlock amazing tickets. I opened the Game Time app and was able to look at upcoming games, concerts, comedy events, and so much more. The app is incredibly easy to use. I went from browsing to buying tickets in just minutes. I love being able to see the view from my seat in the app before buying, so I know exactly what I was getting. Take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's code LOCKEDONCollege, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, let's keep going forward. Jordan Mann's hanging out with us here. We're talking about Duke basketball as they get set for their ACC opener a little bit later today against Georgia Tech. Last season, Duke goes 19-1, wins the ACC championship. They win the ACC tournament title. And as you mentioned, the game that they had on New Year's Eve a year ago, so many of them were 20-plus point victories for Duke as they ran through ACC play. It's early to open up the league this season, Jordan, but it might be time to remind Duke fans here that even if you don't win by 20 every single game this season, as long as you're winning these things, That's what kind of matters in the big formula.
Yeah, look, I mean, I don't expect them to go through the ACC like they did last year. I think the ACC definitely bounced back. So I'm sorry, Duke fans, if you think that's going to be the case, or it's going to be a lot of 20-point wins. But look, I know outside of the Texas Tech loss, Duke has proven to win close games. The Florida game, Michigan State game on the road, but like the one possession game against Florida, that 1-point win was huge because last year Duke did not win any one possession games with Cooper Flagg, Con Knipple, Sion James, whatever. All those losses were down to the wire, and Duke didn't pull through. So they've shown this year they can do that, and even win sloppy. They won that Florida game sloppy, Michigan State sloppy, and so that is something that I like to see out of a team, that they fight their whole way through. Isaiah Evans had an off game against Florida. He hits 1-3 in the game. It's the game winner. We shot 1 of 8 from 3, I think it was. Like, that is what I want to see, a team that is just so tough-minded. They don't care about how the game's going. When the biggest moment shows up, they'll pull through. And I know they're coming off that loss against Texas Tech, but they played 2 All-Americans. They played JT Toppin, who did his thing, and then Christian Anderson, who did his thing. And that's going to happen. Duke's never going to go, sorry, but your favorite team's never going to go undefeated. They're just not. They're just not. And so it was a good loss, a good learning experience, I should say, for that Texas Tech game to prepare Duke for, conference play now, because after Georgia Tech and that Florida State, which, could be a little sleepy spot on CBS, but at Louisville, it's going to be tough with Mikael Brown and company. So I'm very excited to see how this Duke team will be battle tested this year in the ACC to prepare themselves for March Madness.
Yeah, and we'll get a better sense of kind of what we've got going into March. We felt really good about the team going into a tournament run a season ago because they had gone 19-1 in ACC play and that sort of thing. So big game today, opening up ACC competition against Georgia Tech as we sort of get out of this conversation. But before we get to football here in just a moment, J-Man, I do want to celebrate the end of the year with you here. It's the final day of 2025, and it was a year in which, holy cow, man, we saw a ton of wins for Duke, only 3 total losses in the calendar year. When you look at Clemson, the Final Four loss against Houston, and what we recently had against Texas Tech, I'll sign up for 3-loss calendar years for the rest of time if we have to, man.
Yeah, that's a great point. I'm glad you put it in perspective. I would too. It's funny because to talk about the losses, the Texas Tech loss, I saw like talking heads say, it reminded me a lot about Houston's loss. I'm like, oh, the Final Four loss? Like, that's how far back we got to go is the Final Four. And, of course, that is the loss you think about because that's the only loss Duke's had and relatively outside the Clemson loss. So, of course, you're like, this reminds me of the Houston loss. I'm sorry that this team started 11-0 with the gauntlet of Kansas, Arkansas, Florida, Michigan State, Texas Tech. I would sign up for 11-1 like 10 out of 10 times. And so it's just very funny to see the overreactions to the loss. I know obviously when it happened, I was not happy because of the way it happened, but now that time has passed, it's kind of funny to look back at. It's like, hey, it's not the end of the world. Now here's ACC play.
I've got 2 or 3 highlights from this calendar year, and I want you to be thinking about some for yourself when we go to here in just a moment. I want to give a major shout out to Cooper Flagg. We talked about him all the time in this year, man, but I'm thinking about the dunk that he had in the game against Pittsburgh. That was epic. I don't know that we've really seen dunks like that in a really long time from a Duke player. Absolutely fun to watch. The 42-point performance that he had against Notre Dame, setting the ACC freshman scoring record. Unbelievable job from him. And then recent individual performances, the Isaiah Evans game winner that he had against Florida, and then just this run to start Cam Boozer's college career. Like, these are incredible highlights that I'm going to kind of take with me from 2025. And that's not even mentioning an NCAA tournament run that gets you all the way to the Final Four, man.
Yeah. Look, I guess mine would be Con Knipple's game, or I guess that was right before. I would say Georgia Tech game where he finally came through, but that was actually 2024. But I would say,
how about his ACC tournament run? That was baller. That helped him get drafted.
That's why you host Locked On Blue Devils, JJ, because you just pulled through for me right there. Yes, Con Knipple was just carrying the team during the ACC tournament when Duke needed somebody. Common Malawak puking his guts out on the court. I mean, I'll always remember that for the rest of my life. That is just, I think about that at least once a week. There's so much. 7 foot. And then honestly, just selfishly, my experience going to the Final Four, it was an awesome experience outside of the last 2 minutes of the game.
Yeah.
Connecting with everybody that I was there with and seeing like friends and stuff and, doing that journey. That was awesome. And so that is something that I've reflected on and hope to make another Final Four this year with Duke in it. And this time they cut down the nets.
Yeah, I really want that to be the case. I really want that to happen. That'd be epic. Also this year, the entire starting 5 got drafted into the NBA. That doesn't happen everywhere. That's incredible to sit there and highlight, man.
Yeah, look, you're pulling all the great nuggets, and I'm a monologue puking, me going to the Final Four, and then I had to pivot from Conca threes at Georgia Tech to him winning ACC tournament MVP.
Yeah,
I do very much appreciate the Conca sound bites, if you will.
Yes, and many of those happened in 2025. We weren't as his game, his voice hadn't reached that stage yet when the calendar was still 2024.
Dude, the thanks guys was hilarious. And then what he said about the lane violation against UNC, like he's just the funniest guy on accident because he's so serious.
Yeah.
And as a Hornets fan, as you and I both are Hornets fans, I'm seeing it every day now at the Hornets. And he was hurt last night because he hurt his ankle. He was the most active guy on the bench. I'm like, is this dude a coach? Is he coaching now? Is he coaching hurt? Like the guy is he's so unique. I love him to death. And so he's very funny. And also, I guess flashback 2025, like him coming on my show, that was awesome. And got to talk about that and gave him a little thanks guys back to him.
Dude, it's been an amazing 2025. That's what I'm hearing. How about all the highlights, man? And we get a chance. It's an ACC champion Duke football team that we get to celebrate and watch one more time in 2025. How about that for a tease? How about that for a segue, J-Man?
Oh, I love that. You can pinch me in this commercial break because I love that we're AC champions.
All right, let's take one more time out here on the show. We'll talk a little Duke football after this here on Locked On Blue Devils. Locked On Blue Devils here today is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Fridays already feel different during basketball season, and FanDuel's making them even better. Every Friday night before the game tips off, FanDuel gives fans a new way to tip off the weekend with NBA Happy Hour. NBA Happy Hour is the official pregame limited time window where special offers drop right inside the FanDuel app before the action starts. Fridays from 6 to 7:30 Eastern have become appointment viewing with NBA Happy Hour. Opening the FanDuel app during Happy Hour always brings something new from boosts, bonuses, and total surprises. So before tip-off, check the FanDuel app and see what's dropping during NBA Happy Hour every Friday. Again, from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern. Little basketball, little action, and a whole lot of Friday energy. That's NBA Happy Hour only on FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NBA and a proud sponsor of Locked On Blue Devils. For one final time in 2025, we've got Duke football playing Arizona State in the Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl. The ACC champion Duke Blue Devils, led by head coach Manny Diaz, quarterback Darian Mensah. And J-Man, we get to watch these guys ball out one more time this season.
Oh, dude, I know. It's going to be awesome to watch Mensah spin it again now that, he's also confirmed coming back to Duke. That was flirted with a little bit going to the draft. Didn't lose faith, but him coming back officially, Cooper Barkate coming back. It's already like that. That was already the biggest news to me for this season.
No doubt. Yeah.
And Duke's lost some people on the coaching staff. Chris Foster went to Florida, but they just hired a new running backs coach from ECU. And then John Garrett left to go back to Florida State. So with that being said, my championship obviously was the AC championship. Like, it's great. Chelsea, good Lord. Sorry to the listeners hearing dog ears flap, but the AC championship game was the best all-timer to where this is just, it's just the extra icing on the cake for me to where I get to watch Duke play one more time. And this is a Sun Bowl. Like, I'm a big diehard Duke football fan. This means something to me because I remember Duke losing to Arizona State in the Sun Bowl in 2014. Anthony Boone threw the interception in the end zone that Duke was trying to go for the win. That's how Duke lost the game. So I want to win the Sun Bowl against Arizona State because I remember 2014, I was devastated. So I need some redemption against Jeff Sims, who was 3-0 all-time against Duke.
Yeah, we got payback, man. 11 years later, payback cooking. Nobody on any of these rosters or, so much change has taken place since then. But Duke, we feel it. We feel it. the losses that have taken place over the years, and now we get a chance to do it again. I could go kind of big picture with you, man, because there are so many things that both excite me and make me a little nervous and anxious going into the new season. But I don't think we need to do that yet. I think we need to just celebrate 2025 for what it is, because I'm already sitting here thinking, Jordan, about all the work that needs to be done in the transfer portal with Wesley Williams and VJ Anthony and Chandler Rivers and all the defensive guys that are just gone, that, they can't keep playing college football. And the defense that kind of let us down a little bit at times this season. Got to figure out some things there, but maybe we'll just save that for another day, man. We can't end on that level of a note.
Yeah, look, well, a good thing for Duke football is, for Duke football and college football is just take a little piece from advice of college basketball and just find some guy that got drafted and didn't get any snaps. And maybe you can call him back and Duke can get some guy to fill in the secondary who was like a Big 12 All-American in 2017. Yeah. And all of a sudden he's back and he's at Duke because he has eligibility, because the NCAA doesn't know what the heck's going on. So, hey, just call up some like former Heisman winner that that flamed out in the NFL, and maybe he can come back for like 2 years of eligibility. But
yeah, I'm thinking some 27, 28-year-olds that are, and still peak football, and make it happen, dude.
Listen,
against these 19, 18-year-olds.
If Duke needs a backup kicker, a 31-year-old J-man has 1 year eligibility left. So I can go out there, I can kick. All right, I can kick. I can't kick well as I used to, but I can kick. So, if Todd Polino opts out of the bowl game, I'll take a red eye right now to go dress out. So it's hilarious, but it's going to be weird seeing Duke's defense out there with no VJ. I think Wes is playing, but like no Chandler Rivers.
Yeah,
that's going to be a weird sight to see with no Chandler Rivers and VJ Anthony. But like I said, it is nice to see that your starting quarterback will be playing in the bowl game, because obviously last year, the Gator Bowl, Henry Beelan had to start because Malik Murphy entered the portal.
This isn't fair to ask you on the way out, considering it is the Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl, but are Frosted Flakes on your Mount Rushmore of cereals?
Ooh, that's a good question. Like off rip, yes. But if I think about it, it could get pushed off. But off rip, like as a kid, yeah, I ate some.
Don't tell Tony that, man. Don't let him know he could possibly be taken off the Mount Rushmore.
That's a great question. I couldn't answer the next three because I really have to dial in with my with my Fruity Pebbles might be up there now.
Fruity Pebbles is absolutely
Peanut Butter Crunch is up there.
Yep, Lucky Charms, Fruit Loops.
Oh, the comment section.
Apple Jacks.
Oh, yeah. Apple Jacks. I hear you, JJ. I knew you got a crazy side to you. But yeah, Frosted Flakes, that was definitely the best.
Shout out to Tony the Tiger. Tell people where they can support you, Jordan. How can they follow along and support you, man? Yeah,
look, you follow me, J-Man's Takes on Twitter. You can follow me on YouTube at JMan_. That'll be Duke Film Breakdowns Podcast, Big J Little J Show on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. Sleepers Media for all college basketball, and then Action Network. Still writing for them a little bit to where I'll have betting previews for the rest of the season.
You got a thanks, guys, for us on the way out in 2025 to end it this year?
Yeah, thanks, guys. I'll see you in 2026.
That's Jordan Mann joining us here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils, and that brings us here to a close. Thanks so much to everybody for joining us here on the program throughout the year of 2025. It has been an amazing run with Locked On Blue Devils. Let's enjoy basketball and football coming up a little bit later today. For Jordan Mann, I'm JJ Jackson. As always, go Duke. I'll talk to you again soon. My name is JJ Jackson. Thank you and good day.